1.
All right. Calling the zoning hearing board meeting for April 19th, 2022 to order. Apologies for lack of a gavel. First up, we're going to go through the items. We have 2 continuances. So Adam, do we have dates that we're continuing these to? You're muted.
Yeah, yes. The first one, we got an email request from Ed Murphy on the, I think it's.
There's 2 separate numbers, one in the agenda and one on the paperwork. So which is the accurate appeal number?
So we have it's the Troilo one, which is 21-1941.
Yes, okay.
And that one's been continued. We have a request from Ed Murphy, who's their attorney, to continue it to the second meeting in May, which is actually going to be a Monday because the Tuesday is the date of the primary.
Okay.
So it's May 16th, I believe. Let me just double check, instead of May 17th. Yeah, May 16th.
Okay.
And I think they're trying to address some of the issues with the township, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Any comment? All right, somebody want to make a motion? Unmute.
Word of the year, unmute. I move that I think there's 2, or are we just on the 1?
We're just on the 1.
On the 1.
21-1941.
Don't, thank you for the number, because I'm not sure which it is, but to be continued until, I guess it was next April,
May 16th.
May 16th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, any comment? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Includes you, Mike, you're a voting member tonight. All right, motion passes. And I know it's out of sequence, but we'll discuss the other continuance in case anybody that is on for this, watching this online, was waiting for that one. They do not need to hang out, and that is Appeal 22-1957. And what is the plan there, Adam?
Again, that's going to be continued. There's going to try to work with the township, at least to see if they can come to some agreement, or at least narrow some issues, or try to address some of the concerns raised by the township. So they are requesting a continuance as well. And I think that's going to be to the second meeting in June.
Mr. Flagger, if I may, Barbara Kirk, attorney for the township. We are opposing the application, and after talking to the applicant's counsel, we're going to try to set up a meeting with township administration. As a result, they're asking for a continuance until June 21st to give time for that meeting to be coordinated. Did you hear that?
Okay. Any other comment? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue appeal number 22-1957 to June 21st, 22.
Second.
Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Appeal 22-1957 is continued to June 21st.
Mr. Solar, if I may, I just want to let you know that for this application, we will be putting out notices on Facebook and on our township website when this comes back in front of the township.
Okay. You still have an echo, by the way. Thank you. All right. Next up is Appeal 22-1955. Are Erica and Kimberly Chernikovich and anybody else they have with them available to come online now?
Hello, this is Eric Chernikovich.
Hello, Erica. Is anybody else coming on with you?
My wife should be jumping in a second.
Okay.
We're waiting for you. All right, we're here.
Sorry, hi there.
Hi there. Okay. Adam, do we do exhibits first? Or
Yeah,
where? Okay, exhibits. Adam will bring the exhibits.
So we have application as A1, site plan as A2. There's the impervious surface breakdown calculation as well as the stormwater management worksheets. We'll mark those collectively as A3. Proof of publication B1, proof of posting B2, and B3 is the notice to the neighbors.
Bill, do you have a microphone?
You guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Okay.
Guys, solemnly swear testimony.
Yeah, there you go.
Solemnly swear testimony about the give will be the truth, so help me God. It's for the applicants.
That was for you, Eric, and your
Yeah.
wife.
Well, was there a question?
He's swearing you two in.
Okay,
You guys solemnly swear testimony about the give will be the truth, so help me God.
we do.
Yes.
Okay. Present your application.
All right, we live at 1505 Fox Hollow Drive in Yardley, PA. Appeal number 22-1955. We are requesting a variance to raise our impervious level to 24.5%. That will be the end result of putting in a in-ground pool. It's a single dwelling house, mostly open backyard and front yard. The pool we are proposing is 780 square feet on the surface area. We're going to do decking on 3 sides, thin decking on 2 sides, more substantial decking on 1 side, and then no decking on the 4th side. We feel that, putting this pool in doesn't drastically change anything to the character of the neighborhood. In the application, we put in that there's 11 total pools within 1,000 feet of where we're trying to put our pool. I did some research today and looked at all the other 11 sites. If we were the 12th site, we would be the second largest lot of all the 12 pools, in the neighborhood. In addition to that, as far as square footage of house is concerned, we would be the second smallest house on that list as well, of 12. Now so that essentially, I don't know everybody else's impervious, level. I know all the other houses are 2 stories. So I guess in summary, we would be the second largest lot with the second smallest house. So that's why we're sort of hoping that this request for this variance would fit in as an acceptable variance in our neighborhood and not change anything too drastically. In addition, we're gonna put in a seepage pit that would take all of the rainwater off of the back of the house, which is the largest portion of the roof, and take that water directly into the ground. So any sort of rain hitting the back of the roof would not go into the stormwater or drainage or into the yard. It would get directly into the ground. And that's all I have.
Quick question for Jim, and then I'm going to open it to comment. Jim, is the calculation for the seepage pit accurate for the increase in impervious area?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, then I'll open it up to questions. Anybody on the board have questions?
So I'm looking at the stormwater management exhibits, and I'm trying to figure out what is the mitigated impervious surface? Are we mitigating this back to 20% or 21.7, or after the seepage bed, are we at 24.5?
No, before the seepage, we're at 24.5.
All right, so where are we after? Because I don't know why I'm having trouble understanding it.
This will be proposed to manage the runoff from all of the additional impervious surface. So it'll be back slightly below what is currently existing.
Thank you, Jim.
Anybody else on the board have questions? Any questions? All right,
Yes, ma'am.
is there anybody from the public on that has questions?
There's no public comment online.
Okay. Barbara, any comment from the township?
No, the township's not participating in this project.
Okay. All right, given that there's no further comment or questions, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve appeal number 22-1955. As submitted, mitigating the proposed impervious surface of 24.5% back to 21.7%, subject to review and approval by the township engineer.
Second.
Okay, any comment on the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. So
Thank
you
you,
gotta
guys.
work with the township on submitting the final plans and getting the approval on the impervious, and you're good to go.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is appeal 22-1956. Are they available online or in the room? Is that everybody that's going to be on for this from the applicant?
This is everyone we have for
Okay.
1956.
Okay. Adam, do you want to read in the exhibits?
Sure. We have the application as A1, site plan as A2. There's an addendum that outlines the requested relief as A3, deed as A4, proof of publication B1, proof of posting B2, and B3, the notice to the neighbors.
Okay. Your time, Bill, are you within audio range again?
Yes, you solemnly swear to testify about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thanks.
Okay, present your application.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My name is Kelly McGowan with Obermeyer representing the applicant this evening. Applicant is Universal Building and Construction. The applicant purchased the property back in December 2021 and intends to maintain the existing single-family dwelling and subdivide the property into 2 additional building lots for 2 additional single-family dwellings. It is located at 1273 Lindenhurst. You have the plan that was that is the subject of the application that we submitted. You can see the property generally located at that T intersection with Quarry Road and Hillside Lane. The requests for relief that we're seeking this evening are minimal. Mr. Dumack, who prepared the plan, is going to testify to the compliance of this plan with all of the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance of the R1 zoning district, with the exception of a de minimis variance from the density requirement, and Mr. Dumac will take you through that calculation and some of the circumstances of this property that lead to a net reduction in the gross lot area that affects that calculation. And then the second variance that we're requesting this evening is a measurement of setbacks. And that is where your ordinance would otherwise require measurement of setbacks from any resource protected areas of the lots of the property. We're requesting that that measurement be taken from the property lines. Again, Mr. Dumac will take you through those resources that are on the property, their locations, and what applicability of those setbacks from those lines would do to the developability of the property, essentially eliminate any development potential. You will note, I'll point out just at the beginning, there's actually an increased 80-foot front yard under your ordinance from Lindenhurst. So you add that again to the remaining requirements, and Mr. Dumac will take you through what that looks like. Keith, are you, I see you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Could you provide for the board your full name, business address, please?
Certainly. Heath Dumac. I'm the president of Dumac Engineering. We're located at 1038 2nd Street Pike in Richboro, Pennsylvania.
And Heath, in connection with your preparation of this plan, have you viewed the property? Did you perform a property survey? And did you otherwise identify all of the unique features of the property?
Yes, ma'am. We've been out to the property several times. I was just out there this afternoon. We've done the original boundary and topographic survey of the site, as well as the zoning evaluation and breakdown for zoning relief.
And I should point out at the very beginning, for those board members who may not be as familiar with the property is improved presently with a single family dwelling, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that is dating back to public record or show around 1730 as the, I guess, at least first portion of that dwelling. Can you describe for the zoning hearing board applicant's intention with respect to that existing preservation of that existing dwelling?
Certainly. The applicant's intent is to save and restore both the original structure of the residence, and there's a second, I would call it a post and beam barn to the rear of the existing house. Both structures are intended to be salvaged and restored.
Great, and that those structures will be located on what's shown as Lot 1 on your proposed plan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Singer, do you want one of the plans presented on a screen here?
I would love that. I could do it. If somebody could do it for us, that would be great.
Jim?
I'll do it.
Thank you very much. I had very nice packets prepared for everyone until around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So. Yep, any of those will work well. So this is sheet 1. I think that would be
Yes.
great. And I will not separately mark the plans. They were included and have been marked by the zoning hearing board in the application that was filed. Try to keep this simple. Heath, can you see on the screen the sheet that you prepared the plan subject to the application?
Yes, that's sheet 1 of 3.
Okay, and what I previously referred to as Lot 1, that's the lot to the far right of the plan that has the existing improvements?
Yes, ma'am. The driveway almost lines up with the intersection and the traffic light. The existing colonial home is right where the cursor is. Thank you, Mr. Majewski. And then there's a existing post and beam barn structure partially to the rear. Yes.
And We can see from the plan that the existing dwelling and that existing barn that you just pointed out are currently dimensionally non-conforming with respect to front yard and rear yard setbacks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Otherwise, as you have laid out the plan with the proposed lot line, will this lot comply with the other dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so going back for a second then to your survey and to your site visit.
Mhm.
Can you take the zoning hearing board through, starting with, I think, the dimensional aspects of the lot, the application of the right-of-way, and your calculations with respect to that lot area?
Absolutely. I apologize. I'm going to, I have a larger version of the same plan that's on the screen. I apologize, my screen's not all that big, so I'm going to use the plan in front of me for reference. The site itself is on the westerly side of Lindenhurst Road, almost at the intersection of Lindenhurst and Quarry. The site itself is in the R1 zoning district. It has approximately, and I apologize, approximately 520 foot of frontage along Lindenhurst Road. And then it runs back approximately 300 feet. The rear property line is slightly irregular as you get towards the northwest corner. It butts up to several residential properties in the rear, as well as the right side. Across the street is also residential. And I believe there's a detention basin to the south of the property, which is owned by Lower Makefield Township.
Okay. Heath, starting with the gross lot area, please, of the existing property. How did you come to calculate the lot area for each one of these lots?
Well, the overall property based on the survey is 3.32 acres. Then what you have to do is take the ultimate right-of-way area out of the total area. The right-of-way is 0.47 acres, which gives you, when you do basic math, it comes out to approximately 2.5 acres for your base site area. From there, you would then evaluate your resource restricted grounds. On this site, we have some woodlands and we have some steep slopes. So when you take out those restricted resources, you have approximately 1 acre, 1.01 acres of resource protected ground. Take that out of the 2.85 acres for your base site area, and you're left with 1.83 acres of what your ordinance considers net buildable site area.
Okay. And is it fair to say that that net site area is significantly reduced from the gross area of over 3 acres of the property?
Yes, you're talking approximately almost 1.5 acres.
Okay. And but for the deduction of both those resource areas, which we'll get to, and that ultimate right of way, the density would be well compliant with the requirements of the zoning ordinance?
That is correct, yes.
So with reference to the resources that I just mentioned, and Jim, do you mind if we go to the second page? Great, thank you very much. Heath, what we're showing on the screen right now is page 2 of the plan set that you prepared.
Yep.
This sheet also accurately shows the subject property, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this sheet also shows what you've been referring to, which would be some steep slope area as well as some trees and wooded areas, correct?
Correct. The steep slope areas are typically the shaded areas, and the woodlands areas, well, you see the drip lines shown and documented for the different trees that are on the property.
Okay. And did you lay out this subdivision, and did you propose the improvements in such a way as to minimize any impact on the resources that we can see on sheet 2?
Yes, we did. We actually did about half a dozen different layouts until we could come up with something that would truly minimize the impact for both the steep slopes and the woods. And if that's sheet 2, my apologies. You should, if you could go to sheet 3 of the plan set, it shows a preliminary grading plan, which we did for each of the 2 new building lots. And what you can see is that we did our best to avoid and circumvent the resources. The majority of the trees are still protected and intact. And the steep slopes, we went so far as to even try to go around the steep slopes with the driveways.
And the steep slopes that you're referring to, what class are those steep slopes? And what type of slope are we talking about?
My apologies. I thought you would ask. I just have to pull the plan up. What we're looking at are predominantly class 1 and class 2 steep slopes. The majority are actually class 1. So you're looking at 8 to 15% steep slopes. That's your class 1 steep slope. So anywhere from 8% to 15% slope. 15% slope is what? 1.5 feet in 100, and 8% is, substantially less than that. Sorry, I'm not going to do the math in my head that quickly.
No, but this proposed plan does maintain the resource protection requirements of the ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so going to the variance request, if you were to measure setbacks, as I implied before, from the limits of those steep slopes and from the limits of the trees, what would happen to the resulting building envelopes on each one of these lots?
You would not have a building envelope on either lot because the resources are predominant through both lots. In essence, they would be unbuildable.
And is it your professional opinion, based upon your experience and your other work in Lower Makefield, that this property is suitable for the development for 3 residential dwellings?
Absolutely.
And that the property is of such a nature that the subdivision will not have any adverse impact on the resources of the property?
Nope, it will not.
Okay. An applicant understands that in the event the zoning hearing board is inclined to grant the relief this evening, that a land development process is going to be required?
Yes, he is aware of that.
Okay, and we're already looking at a preliminary grading plan, and in connection with that land development process, those requirements such as stormwater management and the other subdivision requirements are going to be reviewed by the township engineer for approval?
Yes.
Okay. Heath, were your calculations for this plan done on a conservative basis?
Very. We know that most, if not all, municipalities take steep slopes and woodlands very seriously, especially Lower Makefield. So we take care to be conservative in our approach for both woodlands and steep slopes. We're very careful.
Okay, so are there areas of trees on these properties that may or may not count as woodlands, but are you considering all of those areas for these purposes to be such?
Correct.
And I think I already asked you this question, but you also performed a zoning review and confirmed that but for the relief requested, this plan is otherwise compliant with the zoning ordinance?
That is also correct, yes.
Okay. Heath, you said you did a site visit. You visited the property. Did you form an opinion, and also based upon your knowledge of Lower Makefield Township, of the consistency of this plan of the residential uses with the neighborhood?
Yes.
What's that opinion?
that this is suitable, that it meets the characteristics of both the R1 zoning district surrounding this site, as well as the residential district across the street. I believe that's not R1. I think we're looking at R8 according to the zoning map. But the residential characteristics of the neighborhood would be met with this, yes.
Okay. And if you can testify on behalf of the applicant, your client, is it also your understanding that in the land development process, the applicant is willing to agree with the township to permanently conserve or preserve those areas of resources on the property?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Would ask the board if they have any questions for Heath.
So, questions from the board?
So Kelly just mentioned that the applicant is going to conserve the resource protected area. Is that the entirety of the resource protected area or some of it? Can you flesh that out a little bit, Heath?
Sure. You're allowed to disturb, depending on the class of steep slopes, you are permitted to disturb a percentage of them. We have no class 3 steep slopes on site, which is, I think, like 25% to 100. But we can and will preserve the rest of the resources that aren't being disturbed. Yes.
And
So
if I may
in-
add, I'm sorry, Mr.
Go ahead.
Connors, I
No,
just
go
want to
ahead.
be clear. Yeah, I want everybody to be clear that the conversation that I had, both with my client and with Barbara on behalf of the township prior to this meeting was that that the applicant would be willing to, sometimes we'll put like a conservation easement, like an easement over, those slopes or those wooded areas, in order to ensure that consistent with, the ordinance, that they're not further disturbed in the future. And that's what the applicant would be willing to do here.
Okay, you answered my question.
Great. I thought I might be.
Do we know what land trust would be the trustee over this conservation easement?
So typically in this type of situation, I'm going to give you my answer, and then certainly the township what they would do. Normally, we would do this in the form of a restriction, of a restrictive covenant, and the township would actually be the enforcement agency for it, and the township would hold it.
All right. Any other comments from the board right now? Judy, you're muted again.
I'm muted. I'm good with the fact that we're going to restrict anything for being more disturbance. I think it's responsible subdivision.
Okay.
It's hard for me when there's trees involved, as you well know.
Heath, on lot 1, do you foresee any changes being made to that one lot, or are you looking to basically keep it as it is? Obviously.
My understanding is the owner is planning on restoring, but it would not be something that the HARB would restrict or require.
No, I'm more concerned with the site. Like you have majority of steep slopes of the site. I would presume they're all man-made.
I would agree with you on that assessment.
Yeah, I mean, that's what your topo looks like. Is there any intent to go in and modify any of that work, or
at this point, no. The owner has talked at one point or another about potentially putting a pool in, but that's at this point just conversation. It's not, mission critical.
Okay.
So we have Barb on for this one here. So does the township have any comments?
Yes, if I may, the township's not opposing the application, but wishes to participate. One, for the reason that Ms. McGowan indicated that the township would like a declaration of restrictions to be recorded against the entirety of the parcel to preserve the remainder with the township as the enforcer of that restriction. So would the applicant be agreeable to that as a condition of tonight's approval if granted by the board?
That is correct.
Okay. The second issue is the preservation of the existing house and rear post and beam barn. Would that be accepted as a condition of tonight's approval, that those structures will not be demolished as part of the subdivision, but intend to be restored?
So I can confirm the dwelling. Heath, do you know of any plans with respect to that rear barn? I know that was the structure that it was in, I think, worse shape, I'll say, if I can say it that way.
I thought the developer owner wanted to keep the barn and use it. I know there was a second floor office of some sort that was in the structure originally that they were talking about utilizing. I don't know the date of that barn, but I would put it just from what I saw of it, late 1800s, early 1900s. It doesn't date back to the original homestead or farmstead building in the front.
So I believe the township would accept at least a condition that the main house built around 1730 be preserved and not demolished.
That is agreeable.
Okay. And Mr. Dumack, I understand how you arrived at your net buildable area after eliminating or reducing the overall gross acreage by the ultimate right-of-way and the resource protected areas. Based on that calculation, what did you calculate the density to be for each of the lots?
I believe we were at 1.67, and I apologize. Sorry. Had to pull up my some of my crib sheets on this.
And I guess that's what I need to clarify, because the application's addendum says a maximum density of 1.63. I think the plans were showing a maximum density of something like 1.97. And Mr. Majewski redid calculations and has come up with a calculation of 2.6 dwelling units per acre. So I just want to make sure we're clear as to what is going to be the requested density.
I would use Mr. Majewski's number. I trust him as the most accurate and familiar with the ordinance. Our plans had 1.97, but I think the right wording realistically is we're looking for 2 building lots. So based on Mr. Majewski's calculation, that would be the most conservative answer.
Okay, so you would agree to that calculation as being the number for the variance that you're requesting?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you just clarify how much under the ordinance of the steep slopes will be disturbed?
According to, and I apologize, according to the resource protection ordinances, the class 1 steep slopes are allowed to be protected, and I apologize, my eyes, I need to get reading glasses. It's either 0.5 or 0.6 protected, with the class 2 steep slopes at 0.7. So looking at that chart, we are allowed to disturb 0.14 acres of class 1 steep slopes and 0.022 of the class 2 steep slopes.
And do you know how much of the woodlands will be disturbed?
Hold on. Woodlands, you're allowed to disturb 20%. So we're looking at approximately 0.2 acres of disturbance.
And the reason I'm asking is because there's going to have to be some sort of clarity in the declaration of restrictions as to the remainder of the resources that aren't being disturbed.
And
And unless and obviously the amount of resource protected areas per the declaration of restrictions would be subject to township approval, correct? Ms. McGowan or Mr.?
That's
Do that.
correct. That's correct. And I can answer that as part of the land development process, as we all know, once we get through the design phase, including stormwater management, as we referenced earlier, there is a chance that the location of the improvements as shown on this zoning plan are going to move around a little bit in order to satisfy the township engineer and the township in comments. So we can commit to not exceeding, and no relief has been requested, for those resource protection ratios, so that they will be, and then when the final plan is confirmed, we will be able to, and we'll identify, we'll have a plan attached to that declaration that will specifically identify those areas that are permitted to be disturbed and those areas that will be protected.
I have no other questions.
Any follow-up from the board?
Yep. On the impervious surface with the proposed swimming pool, is that included
Yes,
at those levels?
yes.
Okay.
All right. I believe we might have public comment. So any public comment?
Yes, we have 2 public comments online. I'll bring the first one in now. We have, oh, here she is.
Okay.
Jean,
Hi,
can you
my-
read this now?
Okay. You'll need to give your name and address and be sworn in.
Hi, my name is Jean Shotwell. I'm at 1239 Fountain Road, Newtown, PA, 18940. So I back up to the property that you're talking about, and I just have a few questions.
Hold on, ma'am. Hold on, please. Ma'am, you need to be sworn in. You solemnly swear testimony you have to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I can't hear you.
Swear you in.
Oh, go ahead.
And you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You can go now.
Okay. So I heard about frontage from the front side of Lindenhurst, but I just wanted to know, since we back up to this property, what is the backage, I guess you would call it, from our backyard line?
You mean the setback to the line?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
do you mean
like-
the width?
Setback from our backyard.
The rear yard setback for this district is 70 feet.
Okay. And the most concerning question I have is we are on the downside slope of that entire property, and we get a lot of water from up there. And so I've heard a lot of conversation about steep slopes and everything. And so I just want to make sure that it's not going to affect the water coming down into our property.
I guess I can answer that, which is we have done preliminary stormwater management designs already, and that's part of the great conceptual grading plan that was submitted as part of this pack. It was sheet 3. We have underground seepage beds designed for both lots 2 and 3. And this does have to go before the township as a land development. They have a township engineer who will be reviewing our work, and we should be required to meet all the standards of the stormwater ordinance for Lower Makefield Township, which will require a restriction on downstream conditions and flows.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those were my 2 concerns.
Okay. Next up. Need to unmute.
Kevin's joining us now. And Kevin's in the room with us now. Kevin, it's *6 to unmute.
My name is
Go ahead.
Kevin Roberts. I'm at 2040 Wingate development, so my property backs up directly to the proposed construction area.
Okay, Kevin, can you wait a moment here? Bill?
Kevin, do you solemnly swear the testimony you have to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My first concern was the same concern as the previous caller. So I live directly back up against the slope from my backyard down to the house is pretty dramatic. My big concern, of course, so the water coming down. We've lived here 33 years. We've never had problems with water in the back. What assurances do we have if after the proposal if it is approved, what assurances do we have it does happen if there is water that you're not expecting?
And I apologize, Kelly, do you want me to answer that, or is this more for the township in general to answer?
Well, I think you already provided one answer, and I see, Mr. Roberts, I see your property basically lined up right behind the rear of Lot 2. And as Heath previously testified, the development's going to be subject to the requirements of the Township Stormwater Management Ordinance, which does restrict the direction of any drainage off-site, and does restrict the post-construction as compared to the existing status of the lot as it stands right now. You'll see, I don't know if you can see the screen, and I apologize if you can't, there is a conceptual stormwater management system located on Lot 2, in the, generally in the middle of the lot, where the water will be directed. It's not going to be directed to the rear of the property. And that, again, will be subject to review by the township engineer during that land development process.
Okay, okay. I guess the plan is that it is not directed towards the back, not towards my backyard, and that, I guess that suffices my question. The next is about just about noise in general. I saw pools, again, that backs up to my backyard. What type of noise abatement is there? Fences or additional trees in the back of the property up against my property?
So I can answer that two ways, I think. The first of which is, as Heath pointed out, there is a 70-foot rear yard. There is also existing vegetation at that rear yard in between what will be this lot and your lot. This plan does not provide for fencing. Fencing is something we could discuss with the township as being permitted in that restriction that we were previously discussing. If that's something that is going to be something that the both the township, adjacent neighbors, and these new property owners would be looking for. I will also add that the pools that are shown are conceptual in order to show the township that the impervious surface and building coverage requirements can be met and will be met both by the initial development, the developer, and then with future improvements, including a pool that a property owner may put on that lot. So again, Heath prepared this plan conservatively, in order to show the extent of development. So that's what you're seeing on the plan. Doesn't mean that a future property owner is going to come in and necessarily put a pool exactly in that location, but that's what we're showing you.
You referred to in the back vegetation. I call it a bunch of overgrown bushes and shrubs and stuff.
Mhm.
Cleaned up, and what will that look like from my backyard into the building area?
So you just hit one of the discussion points, which is something we've talked to Heath about, which is the definition of woodlands and what we're, proposing to preserve. We are proposing just to maintain those areas. And one of the things that we'll be going through in land development, and we kind of discussed with the township solicitor, is going to be identifying more specifically, those areas. So nothing is proposed to be cleared, to my understanding, based upon, all of our representations to the township and to the board. And that's, we're trying to maintain the property, cleaning it up, but maintain the property in its current condition with the vegetation.
My next question, if approved, about how long would construction last? And then is there something that will be, there really is no fence between my yard and the construction area. I guess my concern is a lot of young, what I don't want to see them is going through our backyard or finding a way into the building site. Is there something that is going that small kids, younger kids aren't going to be up there playing in the evenings?
I think I can answer that. Normally we put up both silt fence and or construction fence for tree protection as well. That tree protection fence could be utilized or conceptualized for child restrictions. And I hate to say it, I grew up playing on construction sites as a kid. When I built my house, we caught kids from the neighborhood playing with quads, using construction lumber for ramps and things like that. The owner of the property lives basically down the street. He has multiple properties in Lower Makefield. It's not going to be a absentee owner situation. He's been in the existing farmhouse starting to clean up the property already. If you haven't heard anything, that to me says he's doing a good job of respecting the neighborhood and respecting the community for noise, etc. And I suspect he will continue to do that when these homes get built. Timeline from approval to completion of construction. Realistically, if he's as good a builder as I know he is, approximately 9 months to a year for each home.
So in total, up to 3 years of build?
Depending on
or will
whether
he be building all three concurrently?
That would be up to the owner. But I would say that you're probably looking realistically at 2 years, plus or minus.
I would ask that something be done to keep down the noise during the construction, and then also after the construction is done. I guess I'd like to be involved, if at all possible, that are made up against the back of the back of my property into the proposed construction area.
Kevin,
This is kind of outside of the
your concerns, yeah, but it's outside the boundaries of what's being asked for here. This is just asking for variances from the zoning restrictions. If you have more in-detail questions regarding construction and that, this isn't the place to bring those up.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody on the board have questions? Okay. Is there anybody else in the waiting room?
There's no more public comment.
We'll entertain the board will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve appeal number 22-1956 as submitted, subject to the main house of Lot 1 being preserved and the remaining resource protection areas to be deed restricted to the town of Lower Makefield. Anybody want to add anything to that, or?
What about the barn? I mean, I know it's not 1700s, but it is 1800s. I don't know the condition, to be honest, so I don't know if it's salvageable or not. Reasonably salvageable. Let's put it that way.
I'm thinking of wording that gets the intent through, while not conditioning something on maintaining a structure that's not maintainable or
Correct.
something to that effect. We could suggest that the applicant would use best efforts to maintain the, integrity of the existing structure.
That works.
If
That works.
that
for
would-
me. Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
Okay, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Discussion on the motion.
I just think it's a really responsible looking plan. And the fact that we had very little objection in the public was a pleasant surprise.
Yes. I thought it was reasonable in that, considering across the street does have much heavier density, that it was certainly a reasonable request.
Okay. I guess we move to a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's everybody. So appeal number 22-1956 passes. And thanks everybody for being there. Have a good
Board
evening.
members, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you
tonight.
very much. Very
Have a
helpful.
good night.
Bye, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Solar. I'm no longer needed for anything else, so I'm going to be leaving. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good
Barbara.
night.
Yeah.
Next up is appeal 22-1958. Are they in the waiting room?
You just joined us in the room here.
Hi there, Andrew Scherer and Juliet Mason Scherer.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome. Adam, do you want to do the exhibits?
Yes. We have the application as A1, site plans as A2, proof of publication B1, proof of posting B2, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Okay. So we'll get sworn in.
Okay, solemnly swear testimony about to give will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't you present your application?
Well, we never expected it to go go the distance, as the expression goes. This was identical to what we did. We put this in and it was approved just over 2 years ago. And then due to the pandemic, we were not doing a construction project. So this was to add on an expanded kitchen and a dining room onto the rear of our property. And
so we were approved 2 years ago,
We
but
were-
we let it expire. We paused the construction. We were supposed to start in the year of COVID, so started, so.
originally this was going to happen in
And then we kept
2020.
postponing it, and then it expired. So now we resubmitted the same application in again. And on there you have
The plan has not changed. The plan is identical to what it was. There are no differences. So are there any questions that you have in particular that you?
Where's the mitigation? I think it's gonna be the question from people on the board here, the mitigation for stormwater. Jim?
If I may, at the prior application in February of 2020, the applicant had testified that they planned to put a secret bed to mitigate all the stormwater that is proposed, plus an additional. So they're proposing a 3-foot deep by 7-foot wide by 10-foot long stone secret bed that would take care of all the impervious surface that is currently on the lot, plus an additional 0.5%. So effectively, they'd be below the 30% that is permitted for this property. It would effectively be like 29.8%.
So I guess we're assuming, Mr. and Mrs. Scherer, that you'd be willing to continue to do that?
Yes.
Of course. We don't want issues with that any more than anybody else. So.
Any other comment from the board? Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Okay, I guess we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve appeal number 22-1958, subject to the stormwater management mitigation back to 30% or less, pending township approval.
Any comment? Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, appeal 22-1958 is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry that we let it
And
expire.
Jim, thank you, because I could not have stated it as well as you did, the specifics of the mitigation, but yes, it is still in the plan with our architect.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have an agenda for do we have appeals for the first meeting in May?
I believe we do.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking that is we had the incident a couple months ago where we had none, so we could cancel the meeting, so.
Nice.
All right. So I guess we're open to a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn this evening.
I'm not hearing any seconds though.